This week on New to You, Freaks Part 2, Corn, Freak on a Leash. All right, welcome back to the New to You show. We are continuing in our topic of freaks. Again, we are saying this in the nicest way possible.
Yeah, usually people who identify themselves as freaks, hopefully, usually.
Us?
No, the people we're covering.
Right.
Or the media or our featured elements.
Right. As outsiders.
I mean, you're a little freaky, Keith. I've seen you bend your elbows backwards.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, super freaks, I guess, would be.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this week, before we get into things, I am one of your hosts, John Holt. With me is...
Julian Cage.
And Keith Vincent, a freak because I'm left-handed.
What? It's a right man's world.
That's right.
And who is that laughing man? Is that our guest?
That's your special guest, Adam Mater. How's it going,
He is
guys?
special.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Anytime, dude.
Of course, you bring me back for the freaks episode.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We were like, let's see, who can we talk to about freaks?
Go down the dungeon, see who's down there, and bring him up.
Clegane. Yes. Credibility.
Thank you for unshackling me and letting me have a shower and come in to do the show.
All right.
Who let you have a shower?
I don't
You're on
know.
the radio, man.
Oh, no.
I blame you, Julian. You're too soft on him.
He sounded stinky.
All right. So before we get into your pick, Adam, Jules, you're up on plate this week for what is new to you in the week.
Well, new to me, since our last show and this week, is I received the HTC Vive, which is the first of my virtual reality headsets that has arrived. And so I've been, goofing around in virtual reality for the past couple weeks.
I don't know if Adam's aware of this, but Julian is like full on into virtual reality. That's his.
I'm like, screw this reality.
Yeah. Have you
yeah.
seen
Get me outta
Lawnmower
here.
Man? Because that is his life now.
is
Yeah,
Julian's
I
life.
used to be a lot dumber. I'm getting there. Soon I will rule the world through the telephone lines. And yeah, so I got it, and the HTC Vive is what's considered room scale VR, which means you can walk around a small perimeter, depending on your space. I have like 2 by 3 feet 2 by 3 meters I can walk around in my living room.
Oh, so you're walking around in Canada.
Exactly. Well, anywhere really, Canada incled.
Well, no,
But
because
not,
he was
not
talking
America.
He was talking about because you used metrics.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
We
Well,
love Canadians here
That's right.
on our show.
Yeah.
Those freaks.
No,
And
we love Canada, just not metrics.
but anyways, it's really cool. It's definitely like the first steps. Like it's kind of like the giant 80s mobile phone version of virtual reality. You can tell, like, as soon as you put it on, you're like, this is awesome, but also I can see how it can improve immediately. It's kind of heavy, a little uncomfortable.
Are you just playing Mario Tennis?
I wish I could. They don't have that yet. And the resolution's not that high and stuff, but it's totally cool to see.
It's a step.
It comes with controllers that show the location of your hands, and that really gives you, and you can move around, like you can walk around a bit, so it gives you a sense of place, what they call presence in VR speak. And there's certain games or experiences you can try where you really get lost in them, and you just start giggling like a
Before
like a
we
little
move
kid.
on, so in VR speak,
Yeah.
what's some more? They already have some lingo. What's some of the other lingo? Do you have some more?
Let's see. Well, so there's presence.
Uh-huh.
So that's like the when you get the feeling that you're actually in the virtual space
Gotcha,
kind of
okay.
idea. What's some other
What's a
jargon?
what's a side job? What is that?
I don't know that one.
A row job?
What are the pleasure bots?
What is VR and chill?
Yeah.
I think those are all self-explanatory, fellas.
Okay.
Same as in reality.
But anyways, it's pretty cool. I don't know if I would say go out and buy it because it's expensive, but if you got a friend, you should go over to their house and try it.
I did do that.
I do have a friend, but he doesn't have
What
it.
did you think, John?
I liked playing VR stuff. It was I had to share, so I couldn't be in it all day.
Yeah, a real drag.
But it was fun. It's what you said about the headsets and kind of the apparatus is still a little unwieldy. You start to sweat in your eyes and you realize like things are fogging up and
your organs stop working. And like, whoa, I better get out of here.
you're like the
My brain thinks I'm somewhere else.
the rectal sensor is like starting to burn.
Yeah, dude, you really gotta lube that up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, calm down. Those boobs aren't really in your face.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Get away from me, you boobs.
I'm married.
Well, and you're also like, you got a big wire running through the computer
Yeah.
that you got to not trip over and stuff.
You mean like the Matrix, like in the
yeah,
back
right.
of your
And
skull?
if you die in virtual reality, you die in real life. So that's kind
I
of
made that joke to Mary when she was in it. She's like, "Oh no, look out!" Well, because she was there's this thing where you can like, you're on a mountaintop and you can kind of move around, so you can like look out over the edge and get up close to the edge. And so she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fall." I'm like, if you die in a game, you die in real life.
Yeah, that's one of the cool experiences. They used a technique called photogrammetry, where they basically use tons and tons of photographs. They feed them into the computer, and the computer like is able to recreate the environment based on that. And so there's a few of these like photorealistic kind of places you can check out, and that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's very neat.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's cool.
Valve's lab is probably the coolest thing that we did there. And that, there's a game where you fight sound. These beats come at you and you have to punch them with these shields.
It's called Audio Shield. It's really fun. Like, it looks dumb when you just look at it on a computer screen, but when you're in there and you got these blobs flying at you and you're blocking them with your shields, it feels awesome. I start cracking up every time I play that game. I can't explain why. And you get out of breath and stuff. In terms of video games, it's good exercise.
Well, and at PAX, I went over to PAX East, and I saw a whole bunch of VR apparatus. So they had people riding horses or like motorcycles, but they're on exercise bikes and their VR helmet, like pedaling away in order to like make their horse go.
Well, like I said, it's still early days, but you definitely see the potential. And I think there's going to be this whole weird other thing coming on the society in the near future.
Will it be freaks? Like VR freaks will be the freaks.
Totes.
What about
We're
the
first
art
freaks.
one? Did you mess around with that?
Yeah. There's a
Tilt
cool.
brush?
There's a
the 3D paint thing.
Yes, a 3D drawing app called Tilt Brush that Google bought. So now they're updating it all the time, and it's really neat. Because you can literally like draw a space around yourself and stuff like that. It's a whole new idea. But as somebody who knows how to draw,
can you kind of like fly through space and paint like way up in the air kind of thing in this virtual environment?
No, you're kind of part of what makes it feel like you're real is that you can actually walk around it, and so you can only kind of reach where you can physically reach. And stuff
but could you kind of say like I'm
can
gonna go
teleport
up
them.
a level and like kind of like
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Well, no, he just added teleport to it.
They did, but
It's still planar.
yeah, exactly. Like they're keeping it locked.
And
around.
the neat thing you can find if you search for Titmouse, who's an animation company in New York and LA, they've been getting a bunch of different artists to do tilt brush paintings. So like Jan Vasquez and all sorts of like animators are doing like tilt brush 3D VR illustrations that are pretty fun. And you can like, if you have the VR, you can actually go load them up and like look at them, but you get to see
and
these kind of fun, weird
and,
art.
there's a lot of people like dabbling, checking it out, and like PsyOp, which is a cool motion graphics company in New York, just came out with a neat experience for it where you kind of like talk to this like cool storyteller and you can like play tarot cards and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like, that's the other fun thing is it's sort of like the web in the early 90s right now, where there's just like the people with tons of money are still kind of like, I don't know about this yet, like let's wait till more people can spend money on it. And so it's just a lot of cool like weird artsy people making weird stuff. And it's a mixed bag. Not all of it's great, but a lot of it's interesting. So if you're into that, now's a good time to check it out.
Yeah, VR Kitty Blue. Plenty of that.
But yeah, anyways, rattling on. That's what was new to me this week.
All right. So Adam, you've got a pick this week that we were all pretty excited about. Let's roll into your pick.
takes a part of me. Something lost and never seen. Every time I start to believe, something's raped and taken from me, from me. Life's gotta always be messing with me.
You're freaks.
Sure. So I picked "Freak on a Leash," the single and video from the band, the new metal band, Korn. And I picked it. I am not like a Korn fan. I never was. But that's a very interesting time of musical history for me, and I think in general for the world. Korn was one of the first. Like I was probably 13 or 14, maybe even 15 when this song came out, and the whole new metal movement was a weird thing to me. Where I was like, for the first time in my life, I was kind of like, we kids shouldn't be listening to this. And now looking back, it's like really interesting how popular all that stuff was. And like Ice Cube was on this. This is Freak on the Leash is off their third album, Follow the Leader.
Korn's third album.
Korn's third album, yeah.
Korn with a K, by the way.
Yep. Don't Google Korn with a C.
Yeah, that's gross.
Safe search, yeah. It was a huge hit. I learned on Wikipedia it's one of the few videos to be retired from Total Request Live.
Wow.
I assume it just was driving Carson Daly nuts, and his therapist said he needs to stop playing it. But like massive hit, and it's just so funny. That band is so dark. Their lyrics are incredibly bleak and in a very 90s way, especially like 90s white male rock way.
Yeah.
I just find it to be like a fascinating thing. It's also like an incredible like multiple car pile up of so many genres of music. It's like it's funk, it's metal, it's
rap,
like a little bit of like new wave, like the sad like Depeche Mode, Duran, Pet Shop Boys, like The Cure, stuff like that mixed in there.
But like in spirit.
Right,
That
like
just in spirit.
Right, like Jonathan Davis, the lead singer, used to like wear goth makeup in high school and stuff. And actually, when Korn did their Unplugged, it's kind of a crazy video. They Robert Smith sang with them and did a couple songs.
So crazy.
And it
Unplugged was still around when Korn was around.
Yeah,
I guess I stopped watching it by then. That's
I feel
crazy.
this is so weird. I feel like Korn was one of the last bands to like kind of dominate MTV in the way that like in the last 15 years, few artists of any type have music at all is on MTV. Yeah, maybe they killed it. I don't know. Sort of burned the ship as but yeah, so I picked this, and the video in particular, I remember never really like getting into the music, but the video is very striking. And I was saying earlier before we went on air here, it's sort of one of the most like 90s videos ever. It's directed by Todd McFarlane, who did Spawn and tons of other things. Todd McFarlane also did the cover art.
comic book artist and creator Todd McFarlane. Yeah,
he did the cover art for Follow the Leader, the album that this song's on. It has like a girl doing hopscotch off a cliff. Yeah. She's like about to go off the cliff, and a bunch of school kids are lined up behind her, and they would like kind of animate that and use it as like a motif in all the videos for the singles off this album. And then, of course, it has bullet. What do you call that? Bullet time. Bullet time. The Matrix bullet shot type stuff. It happens throughout. You follow a bullet as it goes through like a gas station
and it happens to go through a lot of liquid-filled containers that burst in slow motion.
That looks fucking rad. Yeah. And then, of course, Korn is in a room that's highly stylized. It has a bunch of probably bullet holes. I guess is the suggestion.
Yeah.
And they're wearing like tracksuits and other weird articles of clothing and playing their songs.
Yeah, they're wearing the like new metal attire.
Exactly.
It's the white men with dreads and baggy pants and that kind of thing.
It's
chains.
Yeah, like the drummer's very workman-like dressed. I think he's wearing like a tank top or something.
Yeah. I think the bassist is the one that like really has the like stereotypical new metal look. Yeah. He's got the dreads, the baggy pants.
He mugs at the camera a lot too, whereas the other ones are too dark. Like Jonathan Davis doesn't really like look at the camera or anything, but the bass player is always like holding the bass up like this and being like, because his bass also has like 8 strings on it.
And he's got the soul patch.
Exactly, very ornate
like
facial hair.
8-string fretless too.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot of this. I know it's because I ended up kind of going down.
When Julian said this. He was indicating that he was playing on like a
mandolin or sitar, yeah.
His fingers are dancing across
right near his face.
But But I went kind of like down a YouTube rabbit hole, starting with that video of other like new metal music videos, and there was definitely like not just like a consistent style, not just of like the type of lyrics, the kind of heaviness, but also attire, and also just the way all the guitarists and bassists moved. They all like did the same kind of thing, which I thought was interesting.
I totally agree. It was a weird, really weird time in music, and I feel like it sort of like disappeared pretty quickly too.
Almost just as fast as it arrived.
Yeah, because I remember by the time I'm trying to think what grade I would have been in when Freak on a Leash came out. Probably like 8th grade. Yeah, 8th grade. And by the time I was like a junior in high school, I feel like very few people, maybe like Limp Bizkit was sputtering along. Slipknot kind of was. But you're like making fun of kids who like Slipknot.
Right, yeah. Everyone had moved on to Eminem.
Though I will say, this is a side story, but 8th grade, we went on a field trip to Washington, D.C., and it was around the same time as Slipknot's like first big commercial album, commercial album, and they were doing a publicity stunt on the steps of the Capitol building. And like, you're a kid, you're an 8th grader on a field trip to DC, you're sort of like, yeah, I get it, history, America's great. And then all of a sudden you see 10 guys in like, I think they're wearing like jail or inmate costumes, and then each of them have a different absolutely insane mask. They're like growling and dancing around, and we were all just like, oh my god, like this is so awesome. And our teachers were like, please stay away, please stay away. That was a, I don't know, good zeitgeist moment there.
Yeah, I think the whole genre, like I'm sure, like just like many others before it, like part of its appeal was that like your parents are definitely gonna hate this.
Yeah,
like without a doubt.
Yeah, like you thought Alice Cooper was like weird and kind of like spooky and stuff. Like get ready. Even like they make because Rob Zombie was always like kind of winking a little bit. It's like, or I'm like very clearly making an homage to horror movie. My name's Rob Zombie. All my songs are about Dracula, ghosts, or hell.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, but these are songs about like I was like abused as a child. I have alcoholism. I have.
Yeah, it's kind of like humorless.
Yeah, totally humorless. Which is crazy too, because like a lot of the songs are like pretty much like funk songs with just really heavy distorted guitars.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy mix of music. And I was learning guitar at the time too, and I remember I totally get why you just have like this massive generation of people getting really good at guitar at the same time. They're sick. Like no one wants to be like AC/DC. Like AC/DC is too boring, or like Led Zeppelin even is too like.
Well, it's just old hat at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little old hat, and like 80s metal is too poppy and cheesy, and they're just like, let's have tons of strings. We're gonna tune them super low. We're gonna play like with funk rhythms, but play like it's a Metallica song. It's just, you get why it's just like stuff piled on top of everything, and I mean, there's some good stuff, but it's just a lot. It's just like I don't know. You can't just combine. You can't just like keep combining elements into a thing before it starts to become.
I feel like they all had like one or two tracks which became like their huge singles that kind of like it all like kind of clicked together, and it was kind of catchy in a weird way.
Totally. They wrote like hooks.
Yeah. Like even that song, like it was actually not as good as I like remembered it. Like not that I remembered it being great, but like
the other one from that, I'm blanking on what it's called. There's one that has a really good hook that it could be like if you just did it on synthesizers, it would sound like a Depeche Mode song or something. Yeah. I'm gonna look up what that is now while you talk.
I think it was the next track.
Was it The Beautiful People?
No,
that's Marilyn Manson.
I love that song. Yeah. We can talk about that in a second too.
Yeah, we could. I think there's like a level of talking about people who were a little more aware of their theatrics and sort of like
embraced it,
and artists more.
Yeah,
like people who were more craftsmen and more, I guess, like art school band versions of this stuff. And I think that's where you're
I think that's where it started. I think it started with that. Like the Alice Coopers and the Kisses of the world, they approached it in that way. Like this is a part of the show.
But what I'm saying is that these guys are doing it in a, this is wacky and fun and crazy and not the suburban white kids that we are.
Yeah, they were still having fun.
They're not doing it. They're doing it in
it's a shock value. They were into shock value.
It's shock and angst, and not shock and like there's no like Marilyn Manson is creating a persona and telling a story, and he has a crafted narrative, whereas their narrative is very like angsty and it's not.
Well,
it's not. It's cheap. It's
if
not.
If you're trying
artful.
to, if something is building on something, it goes like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
It's a snowball, and eventually you have to, show up in straight jackets and like, super crazy masks on your face before everybody
I would
could
say
even.
like Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson are on the same spectrum, but they were the more artsy spectrum.
Well, no, they came out way before too. They kind of ushered in this.
Yeah.
Well, Marilyn Manson was a contemporary to Korn and those guys.
No, but he had already been around. I feel like Marilyn Manson was around since like '92 or something. When I was in high school, people heard of Marilyn Manson.
But I think he got big. Like after 9 Inch Nails and around the same time as
like
90,
slightly
like
you're talking like
before,
90s, what 96 or 99? Like
Antichrist Superstar came out I think in 94 or 5.
Yeah,
That's
so
when like Sweet Dreams and Beautiful
ahead
People.
of them.
Yeah. But Korn had been putting out, but they didn't get big until
like
Life is Peachy was in 1996. I can't even name one song off that, but that was kind of a big album. That was their second one.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later was Follow the Leader. But that song too, I was thinking was Got the Life.
Yeah,
which has a pretty good hook.
It's the next track on the same album. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like, but yeah, then both those videos played like endlessly. You could not escape.
Oh, totally.
them.
And then the one Falling Away from Me or something. It has the chorus about like beating me down. It's a super intense video about like domestic abuse that I remember as a kid. I was like, whoa, can't even believe this is on MTV. Like, but it's actually, I think it's trying to raise awareness, and it's just like a really intense thing. And when you're a kid and they're cutting away to Korn jamming in a room, it kind of is always weird.
Yeah.
Maybe not handled like super delicately.
The other strange thing is that like there was a whole group of bands. They all came out around the same time. They all were like kind of roped in together, but I mean I guess that all often happens. Mm-hmm. But so like Limp Bizkit and Korn were kind of big around the same time. Like Limp Bizkit got almost like bigger for a while. But I think Korn was more respected, probably.
Limp Bizkit was weirdly like the poppier one. Like,
yes,
I guess
because Limp Bizkit, like, they were kind of using the same stuff, but they were like having fun.
They were also very clearly rap.
Yeah,
yes.
Like they
were
kind of
like rap metal.
They use
rock.
hooks the way that rappers use hooks. Like
Limp Bizkit was kind of like Kid Rock, like that same sound.
Totally, yeah.
And a lot of their songs were goofy, like. They were all about like I'm gonna get laid, woo, like
they were never
kind of
about
stuff.
Being sad. Like I don't think Fred Durst would ever admit that in a song at the time.
But yet they had the same audience, so it was kind of like
Well, I think like if you're a guitar player, you're there like you got weird tunings, crazy effects, like all the like new. I remember looking at music equipment catalogs and being like, "Oh man, like this, he has this like $800 wah-wah pedal. Like that's so cool." Like, and also Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was like this too, and like it's very fun. And I'm sure like
very technical. And
and I'm sure
very
non-musicians,
fast playing.
right? And I'm sure non-musicians appreciate it too for like the the whole image and lyrics and stuff. But if you were, I mean, that was just like the next place to take it in terms of playing. Like, we're going to play deeper. We're going to play with crazy effects because now pedals are available to the masses for a lot cheaper than they used to be. And
and it's just playing on this kind of alienation that young people already feel at that
totally.
age.
Like, especially the suburban white male, especially, is just. You can endlessly tap that.
I feel like all teenagers at that age are feeling this like nobody understands me. I'm all alone. Nobody gets it. And these guys are just kind of feeding on that. But really on the suburban white.
I think they had enough of the emo mixed in there because like they'll go from like heavy hook to like whiny solo, like, and because I also like read an interesting thing that like that new metal. Like had a lot. There were a lot more women in the audience than like old-fashioned metal bands.
Oh, interesting. Well, that makes sense because Metallica was just like Sausage Fest in the 80s. So, like,
exactly.
Why would you want to see them as a female?
So I think somehow whatever they were doing, like, kind of had a more diverse crowd.
Yeah, his vocals are really interesting. Listening back to them, like. He almost sounds like the guy from Pet Shop Boys sometimes. Like when he's not doing his growl, he has that one. You're like that nasally, like new wave
kind
sort of
high
sound.
Pitchy,
a little bit like
high register rather.
Not as much as maybe like Trent Reznor will do it a little bit, or someone like that. But or Marilyn Manson will do the Bowie voice a little bit, which I guess is sort of like the new wave voice in a weird way. So sort of like aping Bowie in an even more like detached way. And then, but yeah, he'll slip into that. He's like a good singer, you know.
Yeah.
He actually has like his crazy range and does a lot of different.
Well, the other guy that really impressed me was the singer from Slipknot.
Yeah.
He's actually a good singer. Yeah.
He's
break
amazing,
into some wild
He
stuff.
has an insane range.
Yeah.
Like he'll go from like this crazy growl that would like destroy my voice in 2 minutes, which he
Totally.
can do for hours, to like a straight up like ballad. Yeah, like high pitched ballad, you know, and they're actually like. So I found their music quite exhausting.
Yes.
But at the same time, technically they were the most impressive of all the bands that I listened to.
Slipknot?
Yeah. They were just like super tight and played really hard, like
That's
really
like
complicated,
8 or
difficult
9
things.
members. So,
And they would
yeah.
have these songs that are like 7 minutes long and go through like 10 different things, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
there were so many breakdowns on those. I forgot.
Yeah.
And I know on radio it would be edited down, and the video probably was. I know there was like an extended like guitar breakdown thing on Freak on the Leash, but all of them had like weird, a lot of like whisper, like they read a letter or something. It's just so like funny. I don't know. I try to follow as much new music as possible now, and it's hard for me to find what is today's version of this.
This is
like,
what I was
super
talking
dark
about.
thing.
Yeah.
Kind of
I was
similar
asking
to
my
last
friend
week's
today.
episode of Freak. It's like I don't know what the analog of that is today. Like what is, and I'm not saying like this super dark music is a necessity at all.
Needs to be there.
Yeah, not at all. But it's just a curious thing. So I know like a pop star like Drake and The Weeknd, their thing is like they're kind of sad or they have like ennui about being so famous and they don't really love anyone. They just like do drugs and kind of feel sad. Like that's sort of the Weeknd's.
But it's more this intellectual detached.
Yeah,
thing.
it's not like the world is a vampire. Like that sort of like we're like middle fingers to everybody. It's just very much like it's more like a French philosopher just being like, oh, why am I so sad? You know?
But I mean, part of it is that it's less about the suburban white kid, which I think maybe that's a good thing.
That is
an
incredibly
they had their
good
day.
thing.
They had their day.
Well, that's a question too. I mean, is there always going to be a parallel to this, or is this like a little pustule? Like, is this something that it crops up?
Pustule.
Well, like
How do you really feel about
Pustule's second record was really their
I
best.
know they were really good.
Yeah.
No, but this is something that cropped up for what 8? It really had its heyday. Like it was in full force for
5 years.
5 to 8 years.
Well, I mean,
max.
grunge was just as like as self-pitying and like wallowing and Metallica too. Metallica's lyrics are really. Actually, I think in terms of the lyrics and content is very similar.
It was pretty much a decade of nihilism.
Well, I mean, I
don't know if it's
It
nihilism.
was just
as much
real. It
as
was getting
just,
real.
Yeah,
it was just
like just humorless.
There was a hopelessness.
Humorless like despair. Yeah.
There was like there was nihilism in punk, but again, it's just how you approach it as well.
Yeah.
So there's the
I approach it in a mask with a zipper for a mouth.
exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like
I wear a Guy Fawkes mask.
Our parallel probably was like your Alice in Chains, and like that's the caliber of
totally.
like
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop you there, John.
You can hear some Alice in Chains in these like Korn
Well,
songs.
just look at the song titles, like "Man in a Box" or "Down in a
Yeah.
Hole." Those are two
Yeah.
Alice in Chains that could easily be Korn.
And there's
That's
a level
true.
there's a level of whining involved in that. Like
Well, I just said Smashing Pumpkins is like another
that's more along the lines.
no, it's also Alice in Chains. What's the one with like Black Hole Sun,
Yep.
Soundgarden?
Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Like I think those guys are all
Jesus
It's
Christ
true.
Pose, which is about like the
It's true. I
hypocrisy of
guess
metal bands.
In a
So,
way,
yeah.
new metal was kind of like
Well,
the
So
end
what you're
road
saying
of
is
that.
everything evolves very
No.
deep.
No, I think that it was creative.
Culture evolves.
I think that there was a design.
People change, man.
an intelligent design.
Yeah.
God had a plan. He said, "Jesus, you're gonna die, and in 2,000 years,
And
this
that's-
band Korn is gonna come."
No, man, POD. They were the Christian rock band. the new metal Christian rock.
Jars of clay.
And what did it stand for again? It's like something on death or something.
Oh, I thought it was. I don't know. POD. Who?
You
that
gotta
up
look
now.
that up. That art.
No, but I was going to say that our equivalent was Faith No More. We were
Yeah,
talking
but
to
see,
our
I
pal
think- but I think
musician
Faith No
today.
More-
They had a cool like Primus kind of joking, half
Yeah,
joking.
yeah,
thing
but you can see the direct kind of like the intermingling of different musical genres, the kind of multimedia kind of aspect to them, and I think that more led to the.
I guess the thing though is
sorry to interrupt. POD stands for payable on death.
Oh, like your soul's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All those sins.
I guess
those sins.
I guess
John.
my argument within there, and maybe why this speaks to their longevity, is
whose longevity?
To the longevity of new metal. In that
you mean
period.
they're kind of like lack of longevity,
right?
Oh, okay,
like that's what I'm saying. Their longevity, the term in which they were
no. I get you.
Mm-hmm. Was that
they're freakishly short?
They pulled from your indie, they pulled from your like Primus and Faith No More's, and they pulled from
rap
big time. They co-opted their level of the hip hop of the day, but they weren't doing it as artfully as other levels of co-opt and other people who pulled. They had contemporaries who were pulling from the same influence, who were doing better music. Like,
no, you know what I think it was is like everybody was listening to Papa Roach and Slipknot and all these bands, and then they were like,
"Sorry, Papa Roach."
and then
we gotta take 5 minutes here.
But then they were like, "Wait a second. We could listen to the Cherry Poppin' Daddies instead," and then boom, right into swing.
I mean, that's
just like that. That's what happened. That's what
swing
killed
is
it.
back, baby.
That's right.
Swing was
Zoot
another
Suit Riot came in and killed them all.
Another pustule that that rose the boil
so
on it.
Never forget. Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
That was, speaking of short-lived phenomenons. That was about a year, I think. Swing.
I'd say I'd give it 3 to 4 years.
I certainly
still,
bought.
That's pretty short for a fat. Like it was a fat. You're right. Like that happened. We were all there. But
I was swing dancing.
Yeah. I want to point out another thing. I just wanted to look this up. So Jonathan Davis, the lead singer of Korn. I feel like this happens more often than not. The lead singers of these, or like the leaders of these bands, are very much more interesting and like kind of know what they're doing more than you always think, because they seem kind of crazy and nuts. And he DJs now. He's a very successful DJ who goes by J Devil, and he has been doing this for like 8 or 9 years. Like, it's funny because I was thinking the same thing you guys were saying. Like, their longevity was so shitty, and that kind of was a fad that passed. He's been working. He has a great career right now. Like he DJs a lot. Yeah. Korn I think was active until like 10 years ago or so. So they went for a while, and what was I going to say on top of that?
And I'm sure they could still have a successful reunion tour.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Slipknot's still going, right?
Yeah, Slipknot's still an active
video.
band.
I saw one from 2009.
Dude, you can't stop Slipknot.
That's right.
They're always
well, there's so many of them. They're like the Borg.
But what's crazy is
I might be in Slipknot.
Their masks, like their look is so over the top and ridiculous that I totally dismissed them as soon as I saw them, because like one dude is like just has these like these floppy nails, like out of I don't know, they're just outrageous.
I like the toothpick head guy.
It's like a lawnmower man costume that got run over by the mom's Suburban.
No, Hellboy.
Well, no, it's like it's the pinhead from
Hellraiser.
Pinhead from Hellraiser.
But the pins are giant toothpicks.
Yeah, and they're like, and his mask is
a
loose.
Pipe cleaner. He made it in his 7th grade art
Yeah, and his
class.
mask is loose, so they're kind of flopping around, and they just look silly, like. But their music is really dark and heavy, but their look is almost cartoonish. So
they're also from Iowa, which is just so fascinating and crazy.
Yeah.
That's something that my pal, we were talking to our pal Parker today about it, who's a good musician who was on the last time you were on the podcast, and he was mentioning something that it had escaped my notice, is that a lot of the bands of that. People call it a genre. I refuse to call it a genre. Of that movement is
that wing of metal.
Nah, just that blip.
That's a genre.
The people of that kind of had this kind of working class appeal. They kind of appealed to like people in Iowa. Like a lot of the bands are from kind of
Korn's from Bakersfield.
Yeah. Bakersfield, California.
Yep,
yeah,
no
very
that's
working class. Yeah, like it kind of had this appeal of like we're nothing's gonna come easy kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. I feel like there might be a lot of crossover with a certain political candidate next year's election, as we're saying Iowa and Bakersfield, and yeah.
So, Insane Clown Posse.
I was just thinking that.
Because they're still going strong.
Strong, really.
They're still going, but what? So they're. I mean, they have a.
The Gathering struggling, I think, with attendance, but it doesn't really matter. You guys are familiar with The Gathering as Juggalos? Yeah, great.
So they're like the gag version, but they're in the same world, like Frosted Tips and hip hop with rock, and funny costumes, and pro wrestling, and a similar like white, somewhat racist, working class fan base.
I don't think they're.
It's weird because when I first
racist,
heard them, I thought straight up they were a joke
Kind
band.
of weird.
Yeah,
They're a little of a joke band, but
But then they became like a weird Christian rap band and stuff.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, well, I guess
they have that
haven't
song
noticed.
Magnets, where they marvel at the wonders of the world and like magnetism.
Yeah.
How does it work?
I think it was just a desperate move to keep the money coming or something. But
yeah, I don't.
It just got weirder.
They're really bad.
It started out silly and it got really weird.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of good words for
The Juggalos.
I just don't think there's a lot going on there. That's
Hey,
great.
I don't mind the Juggalos.
It's pretty juvenile.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean their lyrics were just all about like killing people and stuff, and then they'd be like, no, we don't condone that, and it's like, well, you just said out like in very specific terms,
yes,
how awesome it is to just,
but we're
like,
also
slit someone's
dressed
throat.
up. But we're also dressed up like clowns,
Right.
Right.
And we're insane, apparently, according to our name.
Yeah, I mean the music's terrible. I would not say Korn's music is awful or anything like that. Like there are elements of it that are like really impressive,
it's
and
like, it's not my thing, but it's like acceptable.
Totally, and yeah.
What about that band Evanescence?
That's the same.
Would
new
you say
metal.
that they kind of were riding
They were in a new metal top 10 list that I listened to today.
Yeah, they and them
they
and
were
like
on the
My
very back
Chemical
end.
Romance and all those, like that's like where emo
Linkin
starts
Park.
to get.
Linkin Park
Yeah.
is also technically in
I mean,
that
Linkin
basket.
Park songs are super poppy. It's it's a lot of crazy sounds on top of that, but it's like they are just straight up pop songs.
But what's interesting is like they had hip hop artists like Cameo. Almost all those bands had hip hop, and I'm just kind of like, that's like some crazy selling out to me. But I don't know.
Well, that was
who was crazy selling out? The hip hop artists?
Yes.
Or the,
Well,
why
that's
so? Why?
Because I don't know. To me, like the two things don't go together. And
Yeah, I feel like since Aerosmith, Run DMC, like it's always been there's always been a hand in hand.
I guess
well,
so.
it's also
let's not forget. Sorry to interrupt. Holt. I think it was '92. What was that year that movie came out? I think it was called Trespass, and it was and the whole soundtrack was this rap artist teams up with this metal band, and the whole soundtrack was that. I think the Beastie Boys. I'm sorry. Public Enemy and Anthrax made a version of Bring the Noise,
right.
and there
there's
were a couple. Onyx
there's a
was on
tradition
it.
of that in metal too, and in like older rock.
Well, Anthrax was
Anthrax
always
definitely
always
doing it all
doing
the
that
time.
since like
Plus, I guess
86.
when a band's huge, like and in the moment, you never know that they're gonna be if they're a flash in the pan or if they're
Well,
the next.
it's also a production thing where you had a pretty heavy dominance of rap and hip hop on MTV and in the records at that time in the 90s. And if you want to talk about what bands are also popular and dominating at the time, it's these like new metal and like Blink-182 style, like new pop punk. Those are the bands, and so then that's when all right, well, let's marry these things and see how that goes off.
Yeah, it's like not to be too cynical about it, but if you're like a marketer or something, you're like, oh man, what if like we get Ice Cube's fans and Korn's fans,
right?
And we just could have all of that, like
right?
that'd
Like
be
what about like
insane.
Limp Bizkit and Snoop Dogg?
Well, and Linkin Park did that album with Jay-Z, Collision Course. Which that totally, I was like, what?
Yeah, that's
that happened.
Yeah.
That happened.
the 90s were crazy.
Was that? I think that was after the 90s.
That probably was after that. Yeah, but it's Linkin
2000s.
Park. Linkin Park was really big when I was in high school. I didn't care and I paid them no mind because I was very excited about like that generation of like White Stripes, Strokes, Franz Ferdinand,
The Hives.
I was just gonna say the Hives. I forget who else. Oh, Queens of Stone Age was also totally not the same as those other bands, but was really good, and it just seemed like there was this cool. I mean, I sort of like discovered this whole cool new. I don't know. It was like kind of popular.
Yeah.
In that it was on like Strokes were on MTV. It wasn't.
Yeah.
They didn't dominate it or anything, but there was like a lot of just good stuff. I remember I started reading NME, the British publication, and and it was just like such a funny, bizarre world. It's like, who are all these bands who are like their top albums of the year? I've never heard of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it, and it's like, oh, this is great. This is, and then I finally started to get into like Modest Mouse or Neutral Milk Hotel or like all the kind of indie stuff that you wouldn't necessarily come across in Rolling Stone.
But I think that this Korn discussion and the new metal, so-called,
It's
is
spelled N-U.
N-U.
Sometimes
Wonderful.
with an umlaut.
When was that term brought about? I never remember anybody referring to any of that in
I think
that
that's
way.
like late 90s is when it was. That was
Codified.
Well,
what I was the point I was gonna make is that it kind of points out kind of the age difference, because the between you and me.
Well, yeah, it's like right on the.
Right. I was just kind of in college when these guys were coming out, and at the time I was able to kind of escape the ubiquitousness of it by just not being kind of shut off to that kind of media for some reason, or like just being busy or something. I don't know, but I was kind of glad to be.
I think I would have been in the same boat, except that at that time I was really into music videos. Like it's where a lot of cool like
experimental filmmaking
was happening.
Oh, totally.
And it's like it was kind of that peak of like just tons of money getting spent on that stuff. So I would just be like have MTV on in the background all the time, and they were just playing this stuff on loop endlessly.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. Like I said, I never liked the songs, but
it was a neat video.
They had a big marketing push when the McFarlane animation videos came out, because that was around the time they were doing the Spawn,
the movie,
and they had the Spawn like cartoon show, and he was selling those toys. Like that
and
was all hot and big, and
because it was animation, I was kind of interested in it.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
And it's funny because when I talk to people who are like, I don't know, 4 to 6 or so years younger than me, that the big thing I think when they were in high school was the emo, like kind of like Evanescence, which was sort of starting when I was in high school, but like I was so far beyond that, or like My Chemical Romance or Saves the Day, like bands I say their names, I know like virtually nothing about them. I think Panic at the Disco, I don't even know. I mean, I'm just saying names on a list. I'm just saying names I see like on Wikipedia lists and stuff. I don't really know a lot about these bands. But it is funny.
But it's neat that you totally missed that phase.
Right.
Right. So I was kind of whatever the phase before you was.
Yeah. You were probably still in the Marilyn Manson. Like,
I mean, that was inescapable when I was in high school. Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, I remember being.
Yeah.
God, I think I was in 5th or 6th grade. No, I was probably in 4th or 5th grade when the Sweet Dreams video came out, and Beautiful People.
Yeah.
And like I remember some kid in 6th grade had Antichrist Superstar cassette tape, and I was like, "Whoa, how'd you get that? That's black magic."
Yeah. Who let you get that?
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember I would I like would get up at 6 a.m. and eat breakfast and turn on MTV. And my mom saw me watching probably Beautiful People, and was just like, can you please turn that off? Like, you're 11 years old.
Can you please go play violent video games instead of this?
Can you please take all this horrible Ritalin they're prescribing you?
I did a little fact checking behind
the scenes.
Let's
hear it.
The term new metal is credited by the producer Ross Robinson, who is called the godfather of new metal, and he produced albums for Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Slipknot, and Deftones.
Did he also name himself the godfather of new metal after creating the term new metal?
No, other people did.
Oh, perfect.
But I guess he's sort of somebody who behind the scenes, I guess, tied those things together. Yeah. That also makes sense that all these bands also like toured together and stuff, maybe.
And they did a Family Values tour was a big thing.
Oh,
and then
Korn is attributed with being the first, like with kicking off the genre.
Yeah. Well, there's also a pretty big controversy because metal, like Queens of the Stone Age, was riffing off of them, and there are a few other like metal bands, and
like
now
Pantera,
and we see that a lot more now. Like lots of like real metal bands, and they saw this new metal stuff as just like there was a pretty heavy like you're a sellout. This is like not. This is just like pop garbage version of real music to us, and then. There were bands that would like go from metal to like Frosted Tips and affecting a more popular sound and get blasted by their fans for becoming new metal.
Yeah, I remember Metalocalypse, like the band in Metalocalypse also like making fun of like a new metal band and stuff like that.
Right, because they're like death metal or something. I guess is that or black metal? I forget what they call it. That's the kind
definitely
that's
not.
It's
new
like
metal.
unlistenable. It's just let's play at 220 BPM, and our drummer's constantly like doing the double kick. It's just like
he just has restless knee syndrome, and we just put a drum.
Yeah, he's always like this. And then Cookie Monster vocals. It's just like so crazy. Yeah.
But I always love that there's always some, whenever a genre like that, Holt was saying like, oh, they sold out. It's just it always seems just kind of so funny. It's because like everything feeds from something else. There's always
But I guess my argument would be that if we're talking evolution, that new metal is like the branch that just kind of goes and dies. Like, I don't think much evolves from it. It's just sort of like it branches off. There's a path that continued forward of actual innovation and like growth.
I think that what they did, and listen, I'm not going to be defending any of these bands, but I will say as a movement or whatever, what they did in the kind of multimedia blending of styles, that was a very active time of timeline
mixing.
of things of things blending like that, and very active. I mean, just some of the weird bands and stuff that both good and bad that were allowed to and being paid to make music. It was very rich, and these guys were, whether you like them or not, they were in that mix and mixing, stirring the pot.
Yeah, and I feel like in the 2000s, that's when music genres really started fracturing into all these super specific subgenres, and it's almost like, except for pure pop, no bands could really get that big anymore.
Well, I wonder.
It just felt like water.
That's just internet stuff. I think it's just internet categorization.
Yeah. Well, I wonder
but also the way the internet just splintered musical interests.
Because you have to search. How do you search?
Well, you can also,
you can
also instead of just taking what's on the radio or on MTV, you can just find what you're into.
Yeah.
And instead of you can actually get real specific. Instead of being well, I kind of like this heavy thing, you can find oh, I really like this.
I love Scandinavian Viking metal.
Right.
Well, I wonder if that was the sort of death knell. This is the music that just so happened to be being pushed on MTV in its death throes.
And it was pre-internet.
And it's while the internet, people are going off and if you're a young kid in high school and you may not have a computer yet or the internet in a big way or these resources to torrent.
Yeah,
which
it takes 3 days to download one Weezer song when I was when I was a freshman in high school.
It takes 2 hours to burn a CD or whatever. Then if you can afford the $400 drive, you would be in a position where you're just going to watch whatever's on TV. But if you're in a college, you're exploring that music. I think your listener base is starting to corrode on MTV because you just can't. The people are finding those other avenues, like you're saying. It's fracturing, and as soon as it becomes clear that people can go find their music anywhere, it just the platform dies, and the people who are riding that platform are no longer sought after because they were only being listened to probably because they were being pushed so heavy and hard.
Yeah, I think around that time it was a lot of everyone was. I think maybe people were kind of well, where do we go next? Because I remember a lot of more respected or artists that had been around for a long time were like Bowie was producing his album with 9 Inch Nails.
Oh,
and
totally, yeah.
And all these traditional bands were bringing in electronic elements, and that was also Radiohead's OK Computer, and then Kid A started bringing in a lot more kind of electronica-y kind of stuff, and I feel like that's when musical genres just started getting muddy in general.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And where people were then I feel from that point on, that was the everything is a remix era that we're still in, where
sure, yeah,
it kind of feels like maybe everything in pop music's been done, but also not,
I think that you've just been around long enough to notice the cycles.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
All of the you with enough trivial knowledge, you would know who this person was emulating or who they were most influenced by that we thought was so innovative.
But there is something where, you'll have a folk growth of a folk listening thing.
I'm sorry, Holt, but Cherry Poppin' Daddies didn't invent that sound.
They
just didn't. They just didn't.
I know, they got it from Brian Setzer.
They did, yes.
No, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones invented it.
Yeah, the ska skank movement, and that another pustule.
The ska movies.
Yeah, it's right on my inner thigh. It just kills me. The worst.
So what I'm saying is that with the internet, you also get the access to a lot more information. As a band, you can find out more stuff and listen to more genres. So I think people's who are making music, their interest and musical knowledge is even broader, and so they're able to reference more things.
You just have access more.
So
and
I think
access.
these cycles become overlapped almost, like, and because you have different people running the cycle, you have cycles running in tandem where before.
Well,
it was
no,
a
you
little
just
more
don't
linear.
have the heads of 4 big corporations driving
Maintaining
it
the
all.
cycles, right?
Yeah.
Well, and even in indie scenes too, you would have these sort of flows and cycles, and you just have more indie scenes now.
Yeah, but think about in the 90s, you say that it's fractured, but you could go see Tori Amos one night, at the same club see Southern Culture on the Skids. Right after that, see Beck. I mean, like,
that sounds nothing like Lilith Fair at all.
Well, all I'm saying is, like, all of those genres were super influenced by multiple genres, and it was all happening at the same time. We think there was these dominant pushes,
well,
but
they were
there
all on
always
bulletin board systems at the time. They were dial-up internet.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
but what I mean is there's
it's
more
really
of it.
easy, and this is a thing that I always want to. This is a perspective I always try to remind people is everyone always thinks, oh, well, back then this was happening, and but there are always underground, always so many. There are always so many different genres happening at the same time. It's just that stuff is filtered out over time.
But I think in what I'm saying is that the mechanisms we have now stir it so that what is flowing below the surface, everything comes up quicker, and you can access all the different levels at once, whereas before you would have to really go down the rabbit hole to find some of these things.
You'd have to go see a lot of live music,
and you may be avoiding because of the time commitment to do that. You would lose out on the other things that are going on, and that creates levels of influence and levels of perception shift, and it creates things that we haven't had before in some regards.
I think now it's kind of overwhelming amount of music that's just coming at you all the time.
They should just play it all at once, is what I'm saying.
Just got to escape to my VR realm. Never come back.
That's your new musical project.
I'm gonna be huge in VR. That's what I'll tell people as I'm penniless on the street. Yeah,
you wear your helmet plugged into a public utility.
Do you know who I am? I'm bigger than corn in this realm.
Put this on your eyes. You will see.
And you've scaled corn down really small.
Meanwhile, I'm just wearing a KFC box on my head. It's just crazy.
DJ Buckethead, he's the best.
We'll talk about Buckethead next time.
He was a guy in the thing.
Buckethead was a guitarist from the 90s who wore a KFC bucket. He's kind of like Slash, but with a KFC bucket instead of a nice top
Was he on
hat.
Slipknot? What was he in?
He just would show up. He was he's like a non-playable character who just would be in all the bands.
He was a rock
He
mercenary.
played with Primus. Yeah, he played with Primus a lot. He's like Boba Fett or something. He just is like.
He's like Pat Smear. He would just show up in whatever band needed him.
Totally, yeah.
I think strangely, but I think Primus may have been an influence on a lot of these bands.
big
Oh,
time.
totally. The
Well,
bass playing,
certainly
you
the
can
bass
tell
players,
a lot.
yeah.
Sadly, they didn't copy his vocal style, which is.
All right, so
another freak.
if someone were to seek out this music,
And why they would, especially after hearing this, I don't know.
Wherever
I think
Jenkos are sold.
I think starting on YouTube, starting with music videos, is a good way in because I think they were definitely
That's the gateway drug.
they were bands that definitely were very conscious of their image and very very intentional. I think about what they did and
Totally.
and
they
theatrical in an anti-theatrical kind of way.
yeah.
and I would listen to some slight precursors like Tool had some amazing
Tool.
videos. But
Oh,
again,
man.
it's sort of like
Well,
just
if you really, I mean,
They're
I would go.
insufferably serious.
Yeah.
I would just, I would start with some Alice Cooper, listen to some Kiss, then go with some Guar, and then
Guar,
hit
Guar's
some Kid
its
Rock
own
in the
thing,
middle.
Yeah, Guar's art.
Yeah, chase it with a Kid Rock
But
song.
then you gotta go into
I am the bull god, maybe.
Then you gotta go to the industrial. Bands.
Yeah, industrial stuff's great. Like Ministry would be good. Trying to think who else like does that.
Because that leads you to Nine Inch Nails and then you can go on to new metal. Then you're allowed.
Then you're primed.
Allowed to dip a toe in the new.
And
metal.
then when you're done with that, you should listen to Ben Folds 5's song "Rockin' the Suburbs," which succinctly wraps all this up about how angry you are as a white guy.
Or you also don't have to listen to any of it.
No, but do listen to Ben Folds' song "Rockin' the Suburbs" because it really just sums up everything we just said.
That's true.
Yeah.
So do you think, because like Freak on a Leash, I want to get into this a little bit, like sort of on our topic.
We're still talking about this.
No, I know. I want to get into the topic.
My closing arguments.
Please.
Yeah.
Get in there.
Closing arguments.
How, like, are they? I mean, were they just like?
Were they freaks?
No.
Who's holding the leash?
I think the argument is that.
Where's the leash? Is who? Am I leashed? Am I the freak on the leash?
Society's the leash.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Wake up.
So you've got these guys who are
Rage Against the Machine.
Like pretty. They're trying to stand out from the crowd. They're on the main platform that has been around for a while. Mm-hmm. They're suburban kids in the music system making music that's just angry and putting themselves up as like they're styling themselves as outcasts and freaks, right? Like that's.
Yeah, totally. I think I read in interviews like, well, first of all, most of the lyrics of the song are like gobbledygook. He's just sort of like scatting, and but the like something takes a part of me. I think it's supposed to be about like fame, and he feels like he's not himself anymore, and like I think it's that kind of that typical like rock star pop star song where it's like I feel like I'm and basically I feel like I'm a freak on a leash, and that I have to perform for these people, and like I'm not one of them. He had a serious drug problem too, like in the making of that album. He's actually been sober, I think, since that album came out. Wow. Which is pretty impressive. But so I think it's very classic, like identifying like a freak. Like you're just like this dancing a monkey or whatever that everyone's gawking at, and you're exposing all your personal trauma. Like apparently. Go ahead, Jules. You have something to.
I'm just. Here's a lyric. Something's raped and taken from me.
Oh boy.
Something. I
can't
quite tell what.
I'll tell you what it is. It's your freedom.
That's
what it is. Your freedom's taken away from you.
Life's got to always be messing with me. You want to see the light. Can't they chill and let me be free? Can't I take away all this pain? You want to see the light. I tried every night, all in vain. In vain.
Oh boy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I can't defend that.
No, I mean that is the one thing all these bands had in common is like the lyrics are pretty terrible.
Well, the lyrics all sound like they're written by 14-year-olds, which is who this is supposed to be.
In their diaries.
Yeah. Or
what
was that
their
band?
Target audience?
Remember we heard this band on the video, Filter, and they had this song like.
Hey man, nice shot.
Not that.
Nice shot.
There was
a picture.
There was take a picture, and I remember Julian. Like 15 years ago was like, it sounds like it was written in a different language and somebody just translated it poorly. I will take a picture.
No, it's to you I take a picture or something so I won't remember.
I won't remember.
Which makes no sense.
It's the worst.
Pictures help
it's the
you
worst. But let's not talk about this anymore.
Let's pop this postule once and for all. Oh God!
Let's make like culture and leave this shit in the dust.
I have to say it was a fun like nostalgia trip for me.
Yeah, that's why I picked this topic. I really wanted to. I thought it'd be fun to just muse on, try to find what's redeemable, and the rest. I think. Look, do I think new metal artists should be locked away? Yeah, probably. Should they be sterilized? Of course. But this was a really great stroll down memory lane. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. It was.
Their pain has given us pleasure.
I put it on at the office on the general speakers.
Oh no!
And I turned it off before anyone else could play it. I couldn't do
it.
it.
Yeah, before you could laugh at your own prank, you're like, oh God,
what have I done? My eyes are bleeding.
We're at this breakdown of our show.
They gotta stop the bullet with their guitars.
Okay. So
the force of their will.
he's John Holt. You can see him at.
Oh well, here let's do a wrap up.
You can find him on John Holt talks too much about corn.com.
Corn.
Alone in this whole of existence. I know it takes time, but I'm losing my persistence. The distance is too far.
Everybody, thanks for sitting through our episode of Freaks Part 2. Adam's
New
pick. Thanks,
metal.
pick for that,
Corn.
Adam.
Corn and
Thanks,
new
guys.
metal.
Thanks for that
Freak
pick,
on a
Adam.
leash.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for that stroll down memory lane.
Thanks for letting me exercise those demons, fellas.
Yeah.
I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho. Jules, where they can find you,
You can find me on Twitter at BeautifulJules.
You can find me, Keith Vincent, at earthlingkeith.tumblr.com.
And I'm Adam Mater. You can find me on my totally unreadable or speakable Twitter handle at LLLMater, LLL.
All right, and we'll put links to all kinds of awesome music and new metal on our website, newtoyoushow.com.
That's NU to you.
Yep.
And you sometimes with a Noomlot.
Yeah, new.
Like the band
New
New?
to you. New to you. So you can also follow us on Twitter at newtoyoushow.
And that's spelled N-E-W.
Yeah.
It's not
N-E-W.
N-U.
N-U.
Because this whole episode was new
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. New at you. So, you guys should follow us on iTunes. You should leave reviews and rate us there so that people can find out about us. Maybe don't share this episode.
Or maybe it's not the first one.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good cautionary episode.
Oh, I think we brought the heat.
No, I
we
think
brought
we did,
the heat.
We did real good.
Yeah,
We did
dude.
good.
Hey, man,
Yeah.
John. Hey, John, you did a good job, man. Julian,
work.
way to research it.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
Good
Adam,
job.
good job.
Yeah, man, this is a challenge.
Yeah,
This is a good one.
You came in, you came in out of the bullpen.
A little rusty, yeah.
Bullpen, came in here.
Yeah, you had us resting on our laurels.
You kicked like 3 touchdowns. It's awesome.
Hopped up on steroids and just came.
Just rocked it.
And you, Keith, you really brought the angst.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. I felt like we needed it with the subject matter.
Hail Satan.
I feel like somebody raped my feelings.
I'm sorry, I really got to bring this up. Was watching one of the...
Oh, Jules, you really went down the rabbit hole.
really,
You're
really
just in virtual reality
been
watching
watching
corn
these-
videos.
He's been watching these videos for days.
I literally just left YouTube on autoplay, and it was just amazing. Now, what is the band with all the masks? I'm just
Slipknot.
All right, so
It's
I'm watching a
slipping your
Slipknot,
mind.
watching a Slipknot video, and towards the end of the video, big climax, they light up something that almost looks like a pentagram on fire.
I mean, that's like eight points or
But
something.
it has extra points because you can't show that on TV.
right. It was a stop
Good
sign.
job, Slipknot.
Some sad rebellion. Anyway, okay, that's
right.
it. That's it. That's all I got.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Next week, we'll be back with part 3 of Nudie Show.
I think we're doing a comic book
Oh,
called
yeah.
The Fantastic Four, big in Japan.
Yeah, that's Keith's pick for continuing our subject of freaks. Gang, it may not be new, but maybe it was new to you.
New to you, explosion sound, teenage angst.
But I gotta keep moving. This pitiful life is all about the music. 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 This pitiful life is all about the music.
With him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not dead. They're two separate entities.